Okay, here we go. The map is Destination. This is the PokerStrategy.com Team Liquid Star League, and this is White Raw against Kabal. White Raw leads 2-1. This is game 4. Top position with Teal, White Raw, the beast from the east, Ukraine that is. And down at the bottom we have the Canadian Kabal, a real underdog here. And, well, he's shown in the last 2 games why he is a real underdog.
These are two really interesting players here. As far as each one as an individual, White Raw is one of these guys who is a lot older than most of the other pro gamers on the scene. In fact, he's much older than most pro gamers in general with any game. A writer, unless I'm mistaken, a writer for Ukrainian magazine. Very educated, very charming fellow. I have never had the opportunity to meet Kabal, or as I know him, TT1. But he is somebody that's on the Canadian scene. The Canadian scene has had a very odd fade out over the ages. Of course, the Canadian scene actually started up as the best country outside Korea with players like Guillaume, players like Smuffed, and many, many others. And now it's people like Kabal.
And
again,
JF, of course.
Well, yeah, I can't put him outside the picture. But a very different scene than what we were used to before. So right now we have him pushing forward on the front, whereas Kabal kind of represents, Canada. White Raw represents an entire continent. So again, as we've said previously, Kabal is a little bit of the underdog here, but he's proven that he's had a solid game before. He can do it again.
You just mentioned that White Raw kind of is representing an entire continent, but really, I'd like to put it even further than that. I really feel like White Raw represents the entire, foreigner scene, and when I say foreigner, that means the non-Korean, non-Chinese scene. It's this scene of all the other countries. We all play in tournaments together and whatnot, and he really represents us. He's always flying around. He makes it into every single event. He is just this great, liaison and diplomat for esports and for our scene in general. Everyone loves this guy when they meet him. He's got great skill, beats pro gamers on television in Korea when he comes over, a great guy, man. A great, great guy.
Okay, so we're on the map Destination. The normal opener is to get the observer out either before or right after the expansion. But you got to be very, very careful because, again, containment after your first expansion is what this whole game is about. Once you get contained, you're in a big problem as Protoss because let's say you mine out that back mineral patch and try to leave. They can counterattack, kill off your base if you try to push out through the front. Well, then you're basically going through 2 big funnels, and in PvP, it's a big math game. So I'm looking forward to seeing how these guys open up. So far, very, very, very standard tech patterns. But of course, this can all change as the scouting probe is killed off, and the fork in the road happens as far as what their tech patterns could be. I can't wait to see how it turns out.
Yeah, normally we don't see any tech ever put up until that scouting probe is dead, because then you just get it countered and it gets into a kind of rock, paper, scissors type of thing. So, what can I say? We're going to have to just wait for these probes to die for anything really exciting to go on here. But, as you said, those bridges really dictate how this map is played. We see a lot of gateway, robo, expand, observer plays here, because just one gateway Dragoons can generally hold those double bridges that we now see the probe of Kabal retreating over, and at the exact same time we see the probe of White Raw trying to retreat over, but barely doesn't make it thanks to Dragoon fire. So these guys realize, okay, this is when the Dragoon's coming out. May as well save the probe. Why let it die, And I like little moves like that.
By the way, coming up next, we do have JF versus Gosi. That's going to be kind of a Canada versus Mexico match. So today's a big match for Canada in the TSL. I think we have the best of the best coming from Canada. And excuse me, let me interrupt myself for a second. We do see a Citadel coming up here, so we are going to see somewhat of a DT tech coming from White Raw.
That's right, and we have Kabal going for the quick expansion. We see no robotics in his base yet, so this could actually be a problem. Already White Raw is warping in a Templar Archives, but if Kabal doesn't get at least a Forge or a Robo pretty soon, he does start a Robo in the bottom of his main base, so Kabal may in fact have Observer out in time. that he doesn't die, but this DT looks like it's going to come pretty quick and may be able to at least do a decent amount of damage.
If he doesn't have that observer out in time, it's going to be tough. One advantage about getting DTs as well, it can be an auto win if your opponent does any type of attempt to rush to an econ advantage. It can also pin your opponent down because let's say you get that first observer out and you move out of your base towards your opponent. Well, any good Protoss player will have one Dark Templar outside of his opposing player's base, so he can rush in there and start killing off probes. And you can do so much damage, an unbelievable amount of damage, with just one DT. So a lot of this is going to be reactionary play. But as we kind of analyzed previously, you get that first expansion up in PvP, that's where the game starts to get interesting. What we want to focus on is when does the first contain move come up, and we haven't seen that yet. Instead, we've seen very, very different tech patterns. I think this game's only going to get better as time passes on.
Well, we see that DT coming out of the expansion of White Raw up here, and this is going to be really interesting. He's racing down. Kabal has no idea so far, but he does have both of his bridges blocked off. Now, he is building an observer. Now, where will the observer go exactly? I guess it's going to go right to the expansion because it looks like the timing is exactly right. This DT should be able to kill one or two Dragoons, and here we go.
He's inside the base. He has to get that observer there pretty quickly here, taking down the Dragoons. He slipped in there. There's an opportunity to kill a few probes. Nice evacuation here from these probes. And the observer comes out here. Will he back up? This is critical here because he went 1 gate DT, not 2 gate DT. It's been cornered. It's been picked off.
And that really did not do the type of damage I think White Raw was looking for. You know, he killed one Dragoon, damaged another one, chased the probes away for a little bit, and now his probes are finally going to his expansion. In the meantime, he's starting High Templar tech, which is going to be really good because a lot of shell harass does take place on this map.
One thing that's really important to notice here is that one player has the observers, the other player doesn't. So as far as getting a contain up here, even though your tech tree is full, it can be very tricky until you get your own observers up. Let's say that you know, White Raw got the DTs out here, an additional one, with his High Templars, his Dragoons, and parked outside of his opponent's base. That doesn't really matter because if his opponent does get something to snipe those DTs, it won't do a whole lot. So, hold that thought, excuse me, this is critical. We see that Kabal...
In Kabal's main base, behind his minerals.
2 forges.
Double forge, man. That's pretty interesting. I love play like this. You know, he gets that really quick expansion off, blocks the Dark Templar rush, and throws up a couple forges and says, you know what? We're going to go into the late game, White Raw, where I am good because I am a macro player.
But one thing that's very, very important here is that when you go 2 forges, you're almost sacrificing 2 gateways because you're spending double the upgrades and double the amount of time getting those units out here. So contain is critical. Now look, neither of these guys have contained each other yet, which means nobody's comfy moving outside of their base. So maybe contain won't become a factor like it normally is on this map. However, if we do go into the late game here, and these guys both mass up a lot of units, as we can see here, Kabal, he's going to have 6 gateways here in about a minute. This is going to change everything, but for the time being, still a little bit of a micro battle as far as how things are going to turn out. One guy with a tech advantage, that's going to be White Raw. The other guy with the soon-to-be upgrade advantage, that's going to be Kabal.
You know, I really have to say I love how we're seeing both these players play this game. It's completely different. A lot of times you see very close mirrored play by 2 players in Protoss vs. Protoss, but their styles are really showing through. White Raw using a lot of high-tech units. Something he's very good at is battle micro units. He's one of these very old-school players, and, you know, I've had discussions with him about this before. It's both the strength and weakness of his game, how much and how good he is at micro. He actually micros a little bit too much. In the meantime, TT1 the exact opposite, a complete macro player, as we see in his main base, 6 gateways already, the double forge. He doesn't care about these little micro units, he just wants to make more units than his opponent.
Sometimes in odd positions like this, where you both have 2 base, you can get a Dark Archon. It's very rare, but if you do get that Dark Archon, you can feed back your opponent's Templars and do a lot of damage. Wait. I see the 2 DTs, they're putting a shuttle, and they're heading towards the opposing player's base, but there's an observer in the way, and he's going to spot it. Okay, now does he react? Let's get a shot here. Okay, we see the Dragoons moving. Is he going to react in time? Observer moving, making in the base. Does he have an observer inside the base making?
We see no observer
we see
making
no observer
in the base.
In position.
So let's see here. The Dragoons, they are spread well. They'll be able to snipe that shuttle, but I don't see any observers
there it is.
too close by.
South of that pylon over there on the left here, near the forge. Here it comes. The DTs are dropped. The shuttle will die, but can these DTs do the damage they need to do? No. Spotted by the observer. One slips by a little bit farther than it should have, but frankly, no. Zero, zilch.
Yeah, man.
I don't know how else to say zero.
It's Zegative.
Zegative. So that's huge. If you do a DT drop, especially off 2 bases, and it does no damage, you lost the shuttle, that's 200 minerals. You lost the 2 DTs, that's way more than 200 minerals, especially when you count the gas. Now what you're going to have to do is skip the Templar tech. As far as Storm's go, and go for Zealot, Dragoon, and Archon. And now he's going to go for the Contain. So here we see moving him forward, and at the same time we see White Ra moving outside of his base. He's going to try to get in position here. We see him a little bit out of position, actually. Nice Storm to on the Zealots. He backs up.
A lot of damage done there to the Zealots, and even more being done now. Wow, TT1 is really clumped up, and White Ra is punishing him for it, but TT1 has a huge amount of units and better upgrades, and it looks like he is just going to roll right through here.
Oh my God. This is ridiculous, actually. This is an awful tech tree. Frankly, versus Double Forge, you should not expect this. Okay, so somebody is completely boxed in, and obviously that's going to be White Ra. Now, TT1, you can see, is trying to play very safely here. He says, okay, where is my opponent on the map? I don't want to just contain him while he's making more resources than me. He stops the expansion. Now he's got in position. And you know what? White Ra's handling this bad position of himself. Well, he's going for Archons. Oh, there's a Panda Bear guy. You can see. We get a quick glimpse of him here at the TSL. He's, of course, a poker player as well. But more and more Zealots, Archons coming up here. He gets 1 or 2 more Archons over here, and I don't think that White Ra can get out of his base. So this is going to come down to control here. The only thing that White Ra can do is try to do either a DT drop, which is very risky, or a slightly less risky move, which would be to do a storm drop. But if neither of them do any damage, oh, whoa. Okay, let's get a shot of the shuttle here. 3 DTs and a High Templar. Let's do an everything drop, guys.
Well, that is the scariest shuttle that I've ever seen, and it looks like, does he know it's coming? He's moving his units around, TD1 is.
Doesn't matter, let's get a shot of the main here.
Yeah, he's going to drop it right into the main base. We see 1 cannon down there. And
it's not enough, this could be huge here. The only thing that his opponent can do here, oh, excuse me, there's 2 cannons here. Huge amount of damage here on the probes.
Wow, just storms away so many probes, takes down 1 cannon. In the meantime, we see TT1's units moving up to the side of White Ra's base there. But what are we going to see happen with what we have in this shuttle? He's just flying around. Looks like he wants to kill this cannon, takes it out, but there is an observer in there. Let's see, the DT's going to kill a few probes while the shuttle goes behind the natural of White Ra. If he can get off 1 more good storm, things are going to get gruesome here.
This is the problem for Protoss players in PvP, is that, in fact, there's very little you can do against storm drops. Right now, we can see TT1, I'm sorry, I keep calling him that, Kabal is in the position right now, but at the same time, he's going to lose the probes. So if he slips up with this big army outside of his opponent's base, he's going to lose the game. Now you can see, though, the response, of course, for Kabal is to expand once again, so that even though he has less probes, he has more mineral patches. More and more Zealots coming out here. Actually, I gotta say, Kabal's handling himself very well in this case.
Okay, well, you know, I think it's time to take a look at what these guys have resource-wise. White Ra right now, he's at 140 supply, while Kabal is at 171, and this is mostly due to Kabal's macro mode. You know, he's got the contain on, and he is basically just expanding all over the place. He's already taken the mineral base in the bottom left. He has taken oh my god, did we just... The shuttle is flying around with that High Templar, trying to get a storm off. But anyways, we have 2 additional bases for Kabal, and the shuttle gets picked off, so no more storm drops there. In the meantime, White Ra kind of stuck. Looks like he's going to push out over his bridges while Kabal is out of position, but we'll have to see if he gets enough good storms off to really do anything to this huge army of Kabal.
This is the most pivotal point of the whole game here. It all comes down to this. These guys have been fighting over position here. Storm on the two Archons. Of course, those guys take full damage. It's Archon versus Archon right now, and as you could see, Kabal, clearly with the Archon advantage, melts the Zealots. Who the hell cares about these Dragoons? GG, White Ra, completely obliterated by this Canadian underdog. Well played. Amazing game here. Again, he was boxed in. Storm drops were great. GG, well played. Kabal deserves the win.
All right, well, wow. It is tied up 2-2, and I've been telling you people that this would be a good and close match. Kabal can give White Raw a run for the money. Well, White White Raw, a very micro-based player, TT1, a very macro-based player, and we saw that as soon as TT1 got into that macro mode, he just got so many bases up, got so many units out. White Raw was, he was kind of sitting dead, man. Even though he killed that quick DT drop with it doing 0 damage, his own DT did very little damage. His build was cool, but, Kabal just got map advantage, and that means a lot.
As far as Kabal's style goes, I think he handled it in an unusual way. What he did is when he lost a lot of probes, he went ahead and expanded again. And even though he didn't have as many probes as, let's say, his opponent, he had more minerals to mine from. And once he took out that first shuttle, let's look at White Raw. He had 3 DTs and a Templar. So if that doesn't do an optimal amount of damage, he loses. So that was a brilliant play there by him. You got to hand it to Kabal. He stayed cool. He got the Archons. He avoided Templars, which were unnecessary in this case. And he just smashed his opponent.
Well, let's take a look at the next and final map. It is Fighting Spirit. And, I like this map to finish it up on. It's a very balanced, good map. I think we're going to see probably the best player win unless we have, it is a 4-player map, so we may get some sort of quick luck scout versus a ramp block from the other one. This is the 5th game. This is epic, man, because White Raw is someone everyone's like, all right, this guy, he should easily make it into the top 4, right? It's White Raw. I mean, come on, this guy is the third of the triad of Gosus right now in the foreigner scene. We have Hydra, Ret, and White Raw picking up every single tournament win for the past year. So everyone is expecting him to go far, but here is Kabal, this complete underdog, a guy that has just rejoined the scene recently after, his old debacles and everything, and he is really just pushing White Raw up against the wall. Here we are, Fighting Spirit. What do you think about this map, PvP, Tasteless?
PvP, I think it's going to be a very by-the-book map. I think a lot of it's going to come down to who can get the 4th base up unless something absolutely insane goes on. First. So that's going to be what we're going to focus on. But then again, of course, in PvP, any point in time, especially within that first, let's say, 2 to 8 or 7 minutes, somebody could try to trick the other guys. So let's watch for the scouting probe first, and then we're going to look at the macro and position play.
Well, fair enough. I think it is time, man. This is Game 5. This is Kabal against White Raw. It is tied up 2-2. What an epic, awesome match. Will we have another upset in the PokerStrategy.com TSL? I don't know, but I'm going to go ahead and press OK so that we can see.
I'm getting geek chills. Let's find out what happens.
All right, go.